The bride is the church. The church is the bride. And so I feel that sometimes we really miss that point. We miss the point of how privileged we are. That even from the beginning of time, God saw the man. He saw Adam and he said, this man is lonely. So it is not good for him to be alone. So I'm going to make him a helpmate. Hi Saints, it's Sister Tenta here, your virtual big sister. Welcome back to my channel. And in today's video topic, we're talking about marriage. And we're looking at marriage from the biblical perspective of it being an earthly thing, a gift. So ultimately, a lot of us, we were raised, and I speak for myself, I was raised to look at marriage as something that I had to do. I was supposed to be married. There was no other way. This was something I was prepared for from being a young girl. I cannot even remember how young I was, but all I remember is when I used to visit my maternal grandmother, she would say a girl should not allow the sun to go up before she is awake, before she starts cleaning, before she starts dusting, before she starts preparing food, because when you get married, you will need to know all these things. And I was really grateful for, and I still am grateful for some of the things that she taught me, because I now have an excellent work ethic, and for that, I am so thankful for my grandmother. And in my mind, I thought to myself, well, this is something that I ought to do. There is no escape. This is just what it is. And I grew up knowing and thinking about this. So really in society and in life, we are programmed to some extent that marriage is part of life and marriage is going to be something we must do. And sometimes the courtship or the dating process is not really vetted as highly as it should. But for me, in my understanding, I now know that marriage is the biggest decision that you could ever make in your life, and you are completely damned if you choose the wrong partner, but you are blessed when you choose the right one. And so in as much as we are constantly shouting, oh God, when am I going to get married? When is my turn? I think that now we have such a privilege in knowing that God created this union, this sacred union, for us to enjoy companionship, for us to enjoy partnership, for us to actually get to learn God's love. Because it is only through you living with a total stranger for you to have the kind of patience, the kind of forgiveness, the kind of love that God has for his people. Because there's so many times when we fall short, there's so many times when we do so much wrong, and yet God still forgives us. And yet God still has his arms wide open and is always waiting. And that is what happens when you are married. And when you choose the right person, that life just becomes really easy. Or at least it makes it much better to live. You are able to live life in a way that is enjoyable when you choose the right partner, or when you are chosen by the right partner. And that in itself is a gift, because it means that you're not going to be walking alone in this life. And often this life is really a lonely life. We came in this world alone, and we're going to live in this world. We're going to leave this world alone, and that is just the bottom line. The bottom line is we are inherently lonely. We're inherently single. We're inherently alone. No matter how much we want to sugarcoat it, you are on your own when you're born, and you're on your own when you leave this earth. And that's why when we go into Luke chapter 20 and we get into the conversation that the Sadducees had with Jesus. In Luke chapter 20, verse 27, discussion about resurrection. It was this discussion about resurrection. Then Jesus was approached by some Sadducees, religious leaders who say there is no resurrection from the dead. They posed this question: Teacher, Moses gave us a law that if a man dies, leaving a wife but no children, his brother should marry the widow and have a child who will carry on the brother's name. Verse 29. Well, suppose there were 7 brothers. The oldest one married and then died without children. So the second brother married the widow, but he also died. Then the third brother married her. This continued with all 7 of them who died without children. Finally, the old woman also died. So tell us, whose wife will she be in the resurrection? For all 7 were married to her. And then Jesus replied, marriage is for people here on earth. But in the age to come, those worthy of being raised from the dead will neither marry nor be given in marriage. So, marriage is for people here on earth. So, when we're talking about it from the perspective of making it seem like it's nothing really special, it is a gift, really. It is a gift that we get here on earth. And we don't see it as such. We don't see it as such. We see it as something that is of a burden. We see it as something that is very difficult, because a lot of the times, just like when we are children or when we are in school and we're being asked to do homework, we don't realize that all of that comes together. It works together so that we will be able to understand, to learn. From being a child, you're learning how to read, you're learning how to write, you're learning how to understand the world, you're learning how to relate with others, you're learning how to socialize, and all that is essential for the future ahead. It can make or break you. And so we either learn from our environment that marriage is a burden, or we can learn from our environment that marriage is a gift. But for us as children of God, we have the privilege to understand this, to know that marriage is not just something that we can talk about as something between only a man and a woman. We are married to Christ. We are married to Christ because he is our groom and we are his bride. So first and foremost, as a single, you are complete as you are. Like I said, you came in this world alone, you're going to live in this world alone. You are complete as you are because Jesus is, and the Lord is our groom. We already have a groom, and we as the church, we are the bride. The bride is the church. The church is the bride. And so I feel that sometimes we really miss that point. We miss the point of how privileged we are. That even from the beginning of time, God saw the man. He saw Adam and he said, this man is lonely. So it is not good for him to be alone. So I'm going to make him a helpmate. So out of him, he made him sleep and he took his rib and he created the woman who was to help him, in the big job that he was given. God gave him a job to have dominion over everything, over all things on earth. God said, you are to name these animals, give them names. You are to watch over this garden, except for the one thing, the tree of good and evil, of knowing good and evil. You are to steward all the things that I have given you. And he was fulfilled from the day he was created, and he even had help. And then, from the moment that the woman, unfortunately, was deceived by the serpent, sin came in this world. And from that moment, this is when the marriage covenant, this is when the blame game, this is when the heartache, this is when all manner of sin came in, to the extent that even their children murdered each other. And so, when I started to really think about this, I don't think people realize that marriage is a gift to the extent that they should realize it. Marriage is not for you to fulfill your sexual desires. Marriage is not for you to be seen by society that you're married. Marriage is a divine appointment. It is for you to fulfill God's mandate. It's a covenant. It's to fulfill God's mandate on this earth. Where two or more are gathered, there is God in the midst. So the enemy has decided, and is always from the beginning of time, from the moment Adam and Eve were in the garden, he saw them as a threat. He saw them as a threat because they were capable to outnumber him. Had they known the power that they had at the time, had they known the power that they had as a together, the power of agreement, the power that they had together, had they agreed, had they said, had Eve stopped at that time and just said, hang on a minute, let me speak to my husband. Isn't it wonderful to say, oh, let me ask my husband. Let me speak to my husband, Adam. Let me ask him what he thinks about this thing that you want to give me. Let me ask him what he thinks about what you are asking me to eat. And Adam would have most likely said, God said that we shouldn't really eat from this tree. Or it could have been possible that they would have made the decision together. The power of agreement. They would have said, you know what? Maybe it's right. Let's eat from this tree. But either way, had she stopped and said, let me speak to my husband, and had Adam been in his position, perhaps we would be in a different world. Things would have been different. And so when we really look at it, marriage is far more than something that we can use as a thing that gives us intimacy, a thing that fulfills our flesh. Marriage is not only to fulfill flesh. In fact, when we consummate, when we meet, it is part and parcel of the intimacy, part and parcel of the ministry that is marriage. Because out of that, we can produce children. Out of that, we can multiply. We can be fruitful. Because that's what God said to Noah. That's what God said to Adam and Eve. That's why God sent the vine, Jesus, so that we will be fruitful and multiply in number. And to be fruitful not only from having children, but fruitful in the fact that God gave us dominion. God gave us everything on this earth to rule over. We were given so much, and marriage is one of those things. Because when we die, none of us are married. This is the only thing that we can enjoy on this earth before we die. Something that we can enjoy for ourselves past being a child and being an adult is marriage. So it is a gift. It is a gift to be married. But so is singleness. So is singleness. Without marriage, a lot of the times we end up idolizing the thing, because from outside, the grass is always looking greener on the other side. On the other side, the grass always looks greener. So sometimes we don't take time to really make the right decisions because we want to just fulfill what our grandmothers told us that we ought to do. We're going to get married. When you get married, or society saying you must get married. And often we end up in these situations that lead us in these heartbreaking endings of it, or that cause a divorce, abusive situations. As Christians, we have an advantage. When we look at the Bible, Jesus was not married. Paul was not married. Jesus lived, though the few years, 33 years that he lived on this earth, he was here to fulfill a mission. And most likely marriage would have been a distraction for him. Most likely. And Paul, in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 7, he said, I wish that all of you were as I am, but each of you has your own gift from God. One has his gift, another has that. Paul viewed both marriage and singleness as gifts, not one superior to the other. So it is really important for us to know that we need to find fulfillment in singleness, whether singleness before marriage or whether singleness beyond marriage. And how do we find that fulfillment? If marriage is an earthly gift, then our ultimate fulfillment comes from something greater, our purpose in Christ. So we ought to focus on our relationship with God. This is the only relationship that transcends time and eternity. And we ought to also focus on our personal growth. Your dreams, your passion, your calling. It should not pause whether or not you are single, whether or not you're married, whether or not you're divorced, whether or not you're widowed, those should carry on, because the gift is not for you, it is for others to experience. And then we need community and service. There's so much purpose in friendships, mentorships, and serving others. And if we could understand that this is also something that would help us to navigate the singleness in however form it is, whether you're single before you're married, whether you're single beyond marriage, whether you're single because you're widowed, whatever it may be, whether you're single by choice or by being ordained to be single, because some can be eunuchs. Jesus said some people can be eunuchs. They can choose to be eunuchs, or some people can be ordained to be eunuchs. So that is the part where Catholic priests use as their reason for being unmarried. And nuns, those that are in the Catholic faith, that is where they get their doctrine from what Jesus said then. And it's really important, if I can just advise for those that are struggling with singleness, that it is difficult to be lonely. In fact, research talks about how loneliness is also a cause of death. And loneliness can ache. Loneliness is its own kind of pain. It's really important for you to understand that in that time when you're finding it difficult, perhaps it's really important to be real, to be honest, and to talk about it, and to say, you know what, I don't want to be alone. I am lonely. Because there is a difference between lonely and being alone. People that you can be alone but completely fulfilled. But loneliness is almost like an emotion. In fact, it possibly is an emotion to feel lonely, because it aches. It's very painful to be lonely. So don't let the absence of marriage make you feel less valuable, because you're valuable. You as yourself, me as myself, as an individual, I have value in this world. I have value in this world. I am not here by accident. There is no way that I cannot bring or give something into this world. Just me being myself. And so the first thing I feel is to seek God first. Matthew chapter 6 verse 33. And his righteousness. And everything else will be added. So along the way as you're living your life, you'll be able to add friendships, add relationships, but I feel that everything comes from within. It's also what we fix our mind on, what our mentality is. Do we fix our mind on things that are above, things that are good, things that are noble? What are we fixing our eyes on? Are we spending time on social media? I know there was times, I think, in the pandemic, or when we were all home and we were seeing all these couples, the pranking and all of that. And you and me will probably feel like, oh, are we doing something wrong? Their relationships are fun. Oh, this is so much fun. And you feel FOMO. You're missing out on something. And yet that is their story. And everything is curated online. Everything is edited online. So you don't know the full story of what's happening. And sometimes it becomes content. It becomes a job. So obviously they're going to be bringing out content. And it's also having the ability to unplug and to put things in perspective. So whilst I started from the beginning when I was talking about marriage as a gift, I'm saying it for those that are in marriage. I do hope that they will see it as such. And for those that are not in marriage, I do hope you still see it as such. Because marriage is a gift, but it's not something that you are lacking. You, yourself as an individual, you are a gift. God created you. Even before you were in your mother's womb, he knew you and ordained you to be a priest or a prophet or an evangelist, or just you. You being you as an individual is good enough. No one was ever created, no matter how you came in this world, whether it was planned, whether it was IVF, whether it was an accident, whatever it may be. To God, you are not an accident. To God, you have every reason to be here. And whether or not you're married or married or unmarried, that means nothing to God. To him, he wants nothing else but to have you. Because God is a jealous God. He wants all of you. He wants to have all of you. Not you idolizing marriage, not you thinking that you are less than just because you don't have a partner in your life. So I hope that you understand that whilst marriage is an earthly gift, it is something that we will not take with us when we die. When we die, we are unmarried. We are neither married or not married. We are just solo, on our own. We will stand before God for our own actions. And I hope that this message resonates with you. So please, like, comment, subscribe, share your thoughts. How has your view of marriage changed over time? Let's have an honest conversation in the comment. And remember, sis, you are whole, you are loved, you are enough. And with love from me, Tendai. I'll see you in the next video. Please subscribe, please share, please press the notification button, and stay blessed. God bless.